Hey, welcome back to Nathan Trueb Guitar. Today we're going to be talking about bar chords. So there's a couple videos I filmed before, one titled Notes of the Fretboard, and then one titled Power Chords, that I would go back and watch first before diving into this concept. So assuming that you guys are familiar with that and your guitars are all tuned up, let's get started. So bar chords are a type of chord that you can play that is movable up the fretboard. As we know, a lot of these at least seem very stationary. Your G, C, D, all those kind of regular chords that rely on the open strings ringing out, meaning nothing being pushed down, are pretty stationary, unless you have kind of a big grip or a capo or something like that. But a lot of times we want to have more vocabulary with our chords than just one version of G, right? It'd be nice to, let's say your rhythm guitarist is holding down the G down here. You want to go do something up in the higher register, kind of like a Beatles type of thing to do or something, the George Harrison type part. Well, you need to know some more chords to be able to do that, and bar chords are a great start for that. Okay, so now we know they're a movable chord. First, I'm going to teach you about a 6-string root bar chord. Okay, so just like our power chord, I'm going to go up to, let's say, A, for example. That's at the 5th fret. Here's my power chord, which we know from before is just a root and a 5th, really. It's an interval. Okay, but there's more notes in the whole bar chord and in the triad in general that are being left out of that. That's just a root and a 5th. We don't have a 3rd there. So on the guitar, what we really ultimately want, just like with these chords, is we want to be able to strum across as many strings as possible so it's easier to play. Just so we don't have to avoid notes as we're kind of in the moment of playing live or performing. So what we do is we actually have quite a few redundant notes in a bar chord. Okay, so the first shape I'm going to show you is the major shape. So on paper, when you see G or A or something like that, that assumes, it denotes that it's major already. Okay, so you have A is short for A major, essentially. So if I was going to play a major shape, it would actually look like, if you rearrange your fingers on E, some people call it an E shape, I call it a 6-string root, just so we don't get confused by the name E, okay? So, but it does look like that. It's like I moved it up to the 6th and 7th fret. What you do, the bar is actually your pointer finger pushing down every note. Now most people freak out when they hear about that they got to push down 6 notes at once. It is hard at first. You'll get a lot of... Okay, so you have to practice. I kind of roll my finger to the edge so I get some of the bone of my finger helping out, okay? So you can kind of see this kind of curved. You can play around with different thumb positions. I'm just kind of in the middle of my neck on the back. You don't want to be up here, because, you just can't reach enough if you do that. So you really just have to play around with it. Be sure that your leg, your right leg is up on something. You could sit it on a stool or over your leg like I'm doing when I cross my leg. Just so the guitar's a little bit higher. If it's way down here, you're going to have kind of a problem with your reach if your wrist is kind of overexerted. So also think about where your left elbow is. I remember when I was learning these, I would push them all down even with my other hand and whatever I could just to get a noise out of them. And just like working out at the gym or something, you can't just go okay, I practice that for the day. You have to continuously work on it as like a repetition and try to get it in the same place. You can look down at your fingers and see the lines of the strings indented. You want to try to put it back in the same place every time. A lot of guitar is muscle memory. Our hand and our brain and everything, our nerves start to remember a certain way that we do it, okay? And so you want to do that every time. You don't want to keep changing it up because it's like a new formula has been, laid on your brain each time. So we want to build off those, building blocks that we've already kind of established. So once you're, have figured out how to push all those strings down, so fast forward 10 years later, just kidding, it doesn't take that long. But depending on how hard you work on it, you can get it done faster. But it does take time. Now we're going to put our fingers in that shape that is 3rd finger, 4th finger right below it, and then 2nd finger on the G string there. Now you can hear already that sounds very kind of major and happy. So what we have is all the way across. There we go. We've got our major bar chord. Like I said, there's redundancies in this chord because we have a root, fifth, root, third, fifth, root. Okay? Or if you're talking about the specific note names, it's A, E, A, C sharp, E, A. But even with all those 6 notes that I just listed off, there's only 3 distinct notes, which is the notes of the A major triad. A, C sharp, and E. Okay? So that's your major 6-string root bar chord. Now, of course, like I said, it's movable. If the next chord in my song happened to be B, I would just move it up a whole step. And now I have B major, C major, D major, G major, F sharp major, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that, when you read the notes to a song, and it tells you G major, C major, D major, then you just have to go find those by knowing the notes of the fretboard, which we talked about in the previous videos. Okay, so that's the major shape. Now, of course, we need, right off the bat, we usually need a minor as well, because most songs aren't just major chords. They also usually contain a minor chord or two. So if I take that A major, or just A for short, and I remove my middle finger, which is actually what's happening is flatting the third of that triad. Take it off, so it goes from, okay, now I have A minor. And if I move it up, it's, you guessed it, B minor, C minor, D minor, and so on. So that's a shape that I have to memorize too. By sight, is a good way to just look at it. Okay, you have 3 fingers on for the major, take that one off, that makes the minor. You can see where I'm going with this. The other one that's not actually a triad that I like to teach right away is a dominant 7 chord. So that is one in the family of the 7th chords, which just means it has a 4th note on top of the triad that the triad doesn't contain. But oftentimes when you're learning these chords, most people learn majors, minors, and dominant 7s. Okay, so those come up pretty frequently, even in beginning songs and stuff. So I like to show that shape too, because it's not really any harder. Here's my major shape again on A. I'm going to remove my pinky, exposing that 4th distinct note that we're adding to the triad. In this case, that's a G, with a minor 7 interval. And that's going to make this sound. And that's your bluesy sounding chord, okay? So that's called A7, or A dominant 7 in the long form. So now we have major, minor, and dominant 7. Okay, so the next concept, now you could pause this video and start again later, but I'm going to teach you the next part too, just for my more advanced people. If you're ready for it, I'm going to teach you all those 3 chords, but with a 5th string root. So the shapes are going to completely change, but we're going to have 2 places to play them. So at least you're going to have 2 different places to play every major, minor, and dominant 7 chord on the guitar right after watching this lesson. Okay? And that's exciting, because as a guitarist, we just want to know all the kinds of chords that we can, okay? As many as we can. At least that's always been my goal. If you have more vocabulary, then you have different ways to say different things at different times, and more ways to express yourself. Okay, so let's just jump. We're on the 5th string now, but we're going to stay in the 5th fret to D. So my root and my namesake of all these chords is going to be based around that note, okay? Before we were barring all 6 strings with our barring finger, our pointer finger, or our first finger. I actually want you to make a distinct difference when you're playing a 6-string root bar chord over the top of the 6th string. I want you to move it down to the 5th string, and what we're going to do is practice where the point of our finger butts up against the 6th string, creating that muting effect. Now you could say, well, why can't I just hold the whole thing down and only play from the 5th string? It's hard to do, it's hard to aim, so if you accidentally hit that, all we're going to hear is the root that we want. So we have that A shape that we've moved up the major shape. Some people can fit all 3 fingers and play it like that, which is fine. My finger's a little bigger. Some might say sausage fingers. I like to play it with 1 finger across those 3 by creating this little ramp at my knuckle. I'm not double jointed or anything, but that's just something that I've trained my finger to be able to do. But I have known a few students that really can only have their finger flat like this. So in that case, it might be better for you to use 3 different fingers. I like to use the 1. Now, you don't even have to play the last note. I can get it to sound out by ramping up my finger. But that is a redundant note. So if you just played these and muted that one, I'm just lifting up this finger to mute that. That's fine. What you can't do is play this, because then you'll always sound like you're at the end of an oldie song, and we don't want that, okay? So there's our major shape. 3 notes in a row. I'm butted up against a 6th string, muting it. Beautiful, right? Okay, now before, we learned that if we flatted our 3rd, we would get a minor chord. This happens to be the 3rd of our chord. So now we need that. So our minor shape. So that's a D major, D minor. Okay, kind of looks like an A minor, just like it looked like an A major before. Or you have the option to flatten, D minor. And then lastly we had our dominant 7 chord, or 7 for short. So, in this case I'm going to use my 3rd finger and my 5th finger, exposing that minor 7 root, which gives us a D7. So now we have 6th string root, let's review, major, minor, dominant 7, and we have major, minor, dominant 7. Okay, just like with power chords, we talked about we could play G, C, D, and jump all the way up the fretboard, or we could be more economical and have this convenience of 6th string root, C on the 5th string root, D on the 5th string root, making a lot less movement, making it easier to play. We can do the same thing with having the option of a 6th string bar chord and a 5th string bar chord. So in the power chord lesson, I taught you how to play the chorus of Say It Ain't So. Again, they're tuned down a half step with their guitars on the recording. So if it's not sounding right, if you're playing along, that's what you need to do. You can do that with your tuner, just taking each note down 1/2 step, still playing it in the same frets that I'm playing it in. So that was C sharp, G sharp, A, E. Now, what's cool about power chords is they don't really have a major or minor quality because every chord has a root and a 5th. So I could just tell my bandmates, power chord, C sharp, G sharp, A, E, and they would get it. Now if you want to play a full chord, we need to know the full quality, meaning the whole minor part, or the major part, or the dominant 7 part. So in the case of the guitarist who's not playing the power chords, or whoever's playing the bar chords on the verses of the song, which of course is this. Alright, we have a C sharp minor, it's a G sharp major, and actually on the recording they leave their bar off to expose those kind of strange extensions that the open strings give it. And then an A major and an open E major. C sharp, G sharp major, A, E, and then when the chorus hits, stomp box distortion, C sharp, G sharp, A, E. Okay, you know, before, if we only knew the 6th string root, we'd have to be doing a bunch of or still down there, but you know, you see how much jumping around that is. So this makes everything kind of localized in that way. Okay? So that is your major, minor, and your bar chords with 6th-string roots and with 5th-string roots. So what you need to do first is you need to memorize all those shapes. And you really need to make a distinction between when you're at a 6th string and when you're at a 5th string. So one way to do this would be have someone quiz you. Say a friend just go, play me a C major. Now, if you went like this, you think you're going up to C and then you have the major shape. Wrong. That's an F major because you forgot that's the major shape for the 5th string and this is actually an F note. What you would need to do is go, oh, I'm going to play C on the 6th string, so that means it's this major shape, not this major shape. So if I wanted to play a 5th string major C, it would be down here. Okay? So again, if someone asked you to play an A minor with a 6th string root, first find your root, E, F, G, A, and then I said minor, so I would remember that that's this shape, and there you go. So let's say your band has a chord progression that's C, A minor, D minor, G. Go find me a C, could be here or here, just depends on what I like. A minor, could go all the way up here, I like that sound, or I could go here. D minor, I could go here or here. You can hear that they have nuanced differences to them. And then G or G. So here we go, I'll play that chord progression. Okay, so there's a couple different ways to play that, and as you can see, that's just gaining more fluency and more vocabulary the more chords I learn and put together in that way. So I have more options, to be creative with. Alright, that's it for today. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned a lot. It was great to have you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We love to hear your guys' feedback on this stuff that we're putting out there. So don't forget to hit the notification bell also so you can know when all the new videos come up. So we'll see you next Friday. Thank you guys.